Well, if you've seen the background in today's YouTube still, then it can only mean one thing, as it is special announcement time. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 54 of Under the Middle Rope. I'm your host, Jose Taboada, and yes, the announcement is something that we've never done before. It was in conversations behind the scenes for a little while. We weren't sure when we wanted to execute it, but you know what? We figured now is a great time because for the first time in podcast history, we are doing a tournament, a 64 team. I say that in quotations, tournament. Very, very exciting. And of course, I will say off the bat that this was not, it wasn't my idea. It ended up becoming, yes, I guess I agree to it. But at the same time, I'm not the one who created the bracket. Instead, it is none other than today's guest, Mr. Pete Atkinson, who I'm bringing in now. Hi, Pete. How are you?
Hello. It's
Did I do good?
Time, baby.
It is tournament time. Did I do good on that take? I think I did a great job bringing you in there.
I'm quite impressed with only one take. That was pretty impressive.
It wasn't one take. That's the best part. Before we go on any further and before we reveal the bracket, what was the inspiration? I have to bring up as well that it was not just you who helped create this bracket. Good old Nick Charlick as well. You guys were talking behind the scenes, and you guys proposed it to me and said, "Hey, what about this?" So it was you and Nick that had a hand in this. So what was the inspiration to create this and then decide with what you went with before we reveal the bracket?
Honestly, the truth of it, I think it was mentioned a few times in our group chat of people just going, "What is the best of whatever? What is the best this? What is the best that?" All those type of things. And I was pretty much bored one of my work lunch times and was like, you know what? I wonder what I would do if I put together like a brackets thing like this. What would I put in it? How would I divide it up? How would I actually make this thing exist? And in the space of about 45 minutes, I created a bracket. And then, as Jose mentioned, I discussed some of it with Nick. We made a few edits to it. We changed a few things around, got rid of a few, added a few in that I'd forgotten about. And we ended up with something. Let's say that.
Yeah. So we're very excited to reveal what the what's in this 64 moveset bracket. Of course, this is called the greatest finisher ever. And of course, I can only imagine that there was a lot of discussion as to what to include, what's not to include. Obviously, there could be some hot takes or some hot topics as to why X wasn't included or why was Y included. There is a lot on that. There was one point I wanted to make, and it slipped my mind. You guys brought it up to me, and I wasn't sure of like when to do this because obviously, when it comes to a 64 tournament, especially in North America, anytime you think of a 64 team person tournament, your first thing is NCAA's March Madness college basketball tournament as well. And then in the world of wrestling, when you think of tournament, you tend to think of either maybe King of the Ring, but obviously that's smaller. So you go to the G1 Climax of New Japan Pro Wrestling. And so, I ideally I wanted to try to match it up with those events. And then I'm talking with Pete and I said, well, one already happened, which was March Madness because that was in March. And then the G1 is on until October. So I said, you know what? Maybe now's a great time to execute it. And at the same time, we do currently have the Euro Cup, Euro 2020 happening right now. And for us South Americans, we have the Copa America. Go Peru. I actually should have worn my Peru jersey today instead of this Canada Olympic jersey, but it is what it is. So
I have an England top on. Admittedly, it's cricket. It's not football, but it's still an England top.
And of course, it's coming home. It's coming home. You bastards. Anyways, without further ado, let us reveal Pete and Nick's hard work. I present to you the greatest finisher ever bracket. 64 teams. We have 4 quarters or regions in this bracket. 16 in each quarter. You have the tag team division. You have the slam grapple division, the strike division, and the submission division. Again, 16 in each. I'm going to explain how this is going to work, but Pete, can we just talk about again how great this looks? Because I'm surprised that I was able to pull this off. I had to toot my own horn.
Like the document I sent Jose definitely did not look this pristine. I'll put it that way.
Yeah,
it was roughly this type of thing. And
it was.
Just to clarify, obviously, as well, like when I was doing these categories, some are a lot easier to fill than others. So when I was saying like tag team finishes, you get through about 10 to 12 of them, and then suddenly there's not as many obvious ones. Whereas slams, grapples, all those big moves, all your power bombs, all your pile drivers, all those type of things. There is a lot of them.
There's a lot.
Narrowing that down to 16, a lot harder, as you can imagine.
Yes. So
and
like
also strikes includes off the top rope moves.
Yes. Yes, and that's why I brought Pete on today, because he's going to specifically explain it for the detail, the decision behind some of you, as you've seen on there. I know some of them are obviously very familiar to you, like maybe the one-winged angel or the figure 4 leg lock, and some of them are completely new and you didn't know the name, like Awful Waffle.
Don't you be disrespecting the Awful Waffle.
I'm not going to be disrespecting them. But anyways, here is how this is going to work. This is going to take place over the next 5 weeks. Each quarter or division and its finalists will be decided in a weekend vote via Twitter from Friday to Tuesday. And of course, that Twitter poll is at the podcast's Twitter channel at Under Middle Rope. The first 16, the round of 16, will start on the Friday of that week at noon Eastern time, so my real time, up until the following day, so Saturday, 11:30 a.m. Eastern. And then the quarterfinals, the Elite 8, start a half hour later, again at noon Eastern time, and then wrapping up the following day on Sunday at 11:30. The semifinals, the final 4 of that division, Sunday, same time, noon Eastern, wrapping up the following day on Monday at 11:30. And then the finals of that division will take place Monday, once again, noon at Eastern. I meant to put EST, not East, the word East, and then wraps up the following day at 11:30 a.m. Eastern time. And then on Thursday of that week, before the next division starts, is when we are going to hop on and record our reaction to the Twitter poll. So this is all going to be on you guys voting in. With each tweet, what I'm going to try to do, and I'm going to, as soon as we start recording is when I'm going to start scheduling and preparing everything. What we're going to do is try to attach a video, a YouTube link or something, so you can see what the finisher is. Because yes, you may know some of them, but again, there are situations like Awful Waffle that you just don't know what it is, and then you have to go look it up and see what it is. So
yeah, because we have scoured the globe a little bit. Like most of them are from WWE. There's a few from AEW, but there is a couple in there from New Japan as well. And if you don't watch New Japan, you might not be aware of them.
Exactly.
Or you might just forget what the F5 is and just completely, entirely no longer know what that is. Or you might just want to see another great clip of it.
Exactly. So I'm going to attach that, and then of course, as the days go by on the weekend, once again reattaching the clips to, and then eventually get into the finals. When it comes to week 5 on the Friday from noon Eastern to Saturday 11:30 is the first semifinal match, or the first Final Four match, and then the second semifinal, again, Saturday at noon to Sunday at 11:30 Eastern. And then the finals of the final 2 out of these 64 will be Sunday, 12 noon, and then Monday to 11:30 Eastern. So when are these going to happen? Week 1, starting tomorrow, June 18th to the 22nd is the tag team division. Week 2, June 25th to the 29th, Strike. Week 3, July 2nd to July 6th, and that's going to be Slime Grapple. And then week 4, July 9th to the 13th in a submission. And then, of course, week 5, which is the final 4 of the 64, July 16th to the 19th. And then again, correlating to what I just said in terms of like the schedule, is when the videos will be released. Any questions so far, Pete? I think everything's been settled so far.
No, I'm just waiting for all the hate comments I get for missing out everyone's favorite finisher. So
yes, I cannot emphasize this enough. I did not plan this. Again, this was all Pete and Nick. So that's Peter.
If your favorite finisher is Santino Morella's Cobra, I do apologize. It's not in there.
So Pete doesn't have a Twitter, so he's saved. Nick does, and that is at Nick_Charlick90, I believe. I'm gonna put a proper graphic below just in case. Which is popping up on the screen right now, just to be sure in case you need to throw any hate.
Yeah. And I'm not going to be watching this thread, so if you try and insult me on that, I'm not going to see it until Jose says it, because I want my reaction to be in live. I don't want to know it ahead of time. I want to know how stupid you lot are when it comes to this.
Yeah, because I mean, we may have a few. What we've been starting to think about what could end up as an X or Final Four or whatever, but again, we'll see what Twitter decides. Let's go to the graphics. Let's go to the brackets, not the graphic, but the bracket. We're starting off with the tag team division. The 16 from the tag team division, the Dudley Boys 3D taking on the Steiner DDT, the Viking Experience, and the Shield against the Shield Powerbomb. the spike pile driver against the big rig. Rocket launcher taking on demolition decapitation. I'm some of these I've never heard of, like the big rig again. And
the big rig is FTR's one. It was formerly the Shatter Machine. They changed their name to Big Rig because of Brody Lee in tribute to him.
Extreme combination taking on a double choke slam. This one I think is going to be very interesting. The Midnight Hour taking on the Heart Attack. Grand Amplitude taking on the Doomsday Device, and then that is the bracket is wrapped up by the Meltzer Driver taking on Total Elimination. I guess
is there any others you don't know on there, Jose? Before
I will say, like, again, some of them I'm new, like the rocket launcher I've never heard of.
Rocket launcher is basically where one person throws the other off the top rope onto the person.
That is
Enzo and Cass used to do it as an example of a modern one.
Thank you. And I could go on of which ones that I don't know, but I mean, well, again, that's more like just to see down the road. Anyone, do you have a prediction what you might think escaped the tag team division to the final four?
So my favorite finisher is on this list, and I don't want to spoil that because it's I don't want to like kind of sway things too much, so I'm not going to go too much in that one. I think Big Rig might be actually a surprising one that might do pretty well getting through because people love the Shatter Machine, and if people remember, it is the Shatter Machine, and if they see that clip, then
yeah,
I think that's got a chance. I think some of them aren't that good. I think Rocket Launcher's not that great. Like I said, I was scraping the barrel a little bit when it came to this set. Viking Experience as well, I think, is a fantastic move, but I don't think it's going to get any love whatsoever.
I mean, if I had to pick one, just as an early candidate, I do think that it's the Heart Attack that escapes this region, this division. Again, solely because
I don't have the Heart Attack reaching the final of this division.
Really?
So yeah.
I mean, you put it on the interesting side of the bracket. I mean, unless we get all the Young Bucks voting.
I try to spread out some of the big ones. Like I didn't want 3D is obviously quite a big move.
It's huge.
I was trying not to put all the rubbish ones in the same half of each
on
thing.
The same side of the bracket,
to spread things out pretty evenly, I hoped. So we'll see.
Let's move on to the next one, which is the Strike. This one I think is going to be one of the tougher divisions to settle. The Curb Stomp taking on Buckshot Lariat. The Black Arrow taking on the GTS. Black Arrow against the GTS. That's rude. Black Mass taking on an Atomic Leg Drop. And of course, by Atomic Leg Drop, I believe that is Hogan's leg drop. Yeah.
It is Hogan's.
No, that's Macho Man. I'm sorry.
This is my most curious one here. The Shooting Star Press versus the Clothesline from Hell. Because that is like the most classic, normal move of classic wrestling of a giant clothesline versus the most modernized, like stereotype of modern wrestling of a Shooting Star Press, and just to see what comes out on top between really classic old style, very much modern style.
I have to say, I'm a huge Shooting Star Press guy. Like I'm
a huge Clothesline from Hell guy.
I'm a really, really big Shooting Star Press guy. The Coup de Grace taking on the Running Knee. This one I'm torn at, and I hate you for it. The Sweet Chin Music taking on the Spear, because those moves belong to two of my all-time favorites, Shawn Michaels and Edge. And I didn't want to say Goldberg. I didn't want to say Goldberg. Claymore.
Well, the thing is, I left it as Spear because everyone can have their own interpretation.
Exactly.
Sweet Chin Music is definitively the best super kick, so it might as well be in a standalone category. Spear is up for interpretation because if you prefer Edges, you're an idiot. But at the same time, Goldberg's Spear is fantastic.
It is. I'm not going to deny it.
Roman Reigns' Spear is fantastic.
It's really good too.
I don't even care if you want to put Charlotte's Spear in there for all you, or whoever cares about that. It's pretty damn good. If you want to go for the Gore as Rhino's finisher, fantastic. I know the Gore is called the Gore and not the Spear, but still a fantastic move. So
I just say Edge because everybody knows that I'm a big Edge head, and I've been saying that since
day one.
Spear, though. I know, but he's still my favorite. Okay, let's move on. The Claymore taking on the 619 and the Kamigoye. I think I said that right. Taking on Kushida Okada's Rainmaker, which I think Rainmaker could make the final four of this side of the bracket or this division.
That's what I'm curious about because I think the Rainmaker's overrated. So,
It
and I think this
wasn't
is when it comes down to how good do you think the finisher is versus how good is the wrestler.
absolutely. That's
And
very
that's why
true.
I'm very curious in that one because of my to be fair, the Kamigoye is Ibushi's and it's fantastic, and obviously Ibushi's fantastic as well. So a little Japanese bracket there. See who gets through.
Now,
A massive knee to the face or a bit of a what's it called? The clothesline from whatever. Ripcord clothesline. That's what
now, of course, if again, if I have to show my bias self, and again, I emphasize enough that obviously I'm not going to be voting. I'm setting up the polls, but I'm not going to be putting in my own vote. If I had to pick one to escape this division, I have to go with, and I feel like it's going to be controversial when I say Sweet Chin Music. I kind of hoping I see Sweet Chin Music in the final four again. I could be
I
wrong.
want to see Black Mass there. That's what
Black Mass is 100% acceptable as well.
That move so much.
I was saying earlier, I'm a sucker for the shooting star press because that's a move that I wish I could do because I love the shooting star press. But the problem is I'm scared of heights and I'm not comfortable inverting myself. But anyways,
just to clarify on this one, there's so many top rope moves that could have gone in here, and I had to narrow them down. And yeah, so we went with shooting star press, coup de grace on there as well. Like I could have put in a 450. It could have put in a swanton bomb. There could have been a. We've also got the Black Arrow on there as well, which I think is fantastic. But there's the 630 obviously as well. There's so many top rope finishes which are different versions of flips that I could have almost had its own bracket for that.
I was just about to say, like, you could have like an off the top rope.
But these made more sense as 4 brackets.
Absolutely, yeah, exactly. You had to. But yes, off the top rope could have been very, very acceptable. But I mean, at the same time, I feel like you'd be losing out on what you see here because there's a lot of goodness in this division. The next division also may have people talking, and that is Slam Grapple. And these are some of the more popular moves I think I've seen. And again, I was looking. I mean, you look at the 4 divisions. You look at the 4 divisions. Slam Grapple may be up there in terms of stacked, and it is. I think it's nuts. Kenny Omega's really protected One-Winged Angel taking on Razor's Edge, Burning Hammer taking on the Jackhammer. The Battle of the Hammers there. The Pedigree taking on the Paradigm Shift. That's going to be an interesting pairing there. The Jackknife Powerbomb taking the very infamous Stone Cold Stunner. The End of Days taking on the Undertaker's Tombstone Piledriver. Awful Waffle against Brock Lesnar's F5. The Rock Bottom / the Bookend because they were 2 very similar moves. The same, ideally the same.
It's the same move.
Ideally the same effect. Only I think to be fair, The Rock obviously put way more flair on that than Booker T did. Taking on AJ Styles, Styles Clash, and then of course the RKO taking on the Glam Slam. The Glam Slam.
Yeah, Beth Phoenix.
I figured it was Beth Phoenix's.
Yeah.
This is I think this is going to be like the most toughest battled out division.
Yeah, I think this is also the one where I did have to leave out the most finishes as well, so you don't see things like the Unpretty is not in there. Things like the Stormbreaker is one of my favorite finishes, which isn't in there. Things like the Tazplex. Power bombs. There are so many different power bombs, and trying to narrow it down is impossible. I could have put a Batista bomb in there. I could have put a Last Ride in there. I didn't put a normal choke slam in here because I had the double choke slam and the tag team finishes.
And everybody has different choke slams, yeah.
So many. The Destino is another great example of a grapple type finisher, which isn't in here. And I had to narrow this down somehow. So like power bombs, like I put the Jackknife in, I think it's a fantastic one. Razor's Edge for the overhead bit, I think it's a fantastic power bomb as well. So I thought that kind of covered it off. Same with pile drivers. There's like 20 different pile drivers that you can put in there. Like the Gotch pile driver, I love. But I think Tombstone and Awful Waffle are my favorite 2 of them.
You know what? I have to say that when I read Glam Slam, for a quick second, I thought you just misspelled it and you meant to say the Angle Slam, like Kurt Angle Slam.
I could have put in there.
Which I think is great too.
Exactly. It's another one that I missed out. But then there's a few brackets I like here. Burning Hammer versus Jackhammer. I had to just do the Battle of the Hammers. It just made sense. Pedigree versus Paradigm Shift, as you already mentioned, like the underhook arm DDT type moves.
Yeah.
Which one do you prefer? I'm very curious. Like, just a normal DDT could have been on there, but the DDT is such a
Jake the Snake's DDT,
it's such a transitional move now that it's kind of it's hard to put in there.
See,
as the greatest finish. It's really difficult
See, I
nowadays.
don't know who escapes this division to head to the final four, but I have to. I mean, if I had to pick the finalists, and I think this is where my WWE bias is going to show. I think the Stunner and the Tombstone make it, but again,
See, I think it's going to be the Stunner and the RKO. Get there.
exactly. The RKO is powerful, but there's a lot of great content in here. And I mean, I will say that I think it's going to be hilariously ironic if the most protected move, when I mean the most protected move, the only protected move left in wrestling today and maybe in
Burning
history.
Hammer.
Well, I was going to go One Winged Angel, but sure.
I know where you were going. That's why.
If the One Winged Angel doesn't make it to the final, or at least the final four, I'm going to kind of laugh. But again, there's a lot of
curious because, like I said, it depends where your thing is, because the Burning Hammer is pretty much the most brutal move in wrestling. It's ridiculous, the Burning Hammer. And then the Jackhammer, if you have like a very old WCW like nostalgia factor, the Jackhammer's brilliant move. Like, I'm not going to criticize it. It's a fantastic move. It's one of Goldberg's only two that he could do, but it's a fantastic one to be able to do. So
it's impressive. I mean, again, I was lucky to see a Jackhammer in his comeback in 2016 at Survivor Series. That thing gets you riled up, especially against a guy like Brock Lesnar. You're like, holy crap, and it worked out to perfection.
Yeah, I think my last point on this one is I feel very sorry for the Glam Slam here, because I love the Glam Slam. I love Beth Phoenix, but I think that's going to be a landslide, unfortunately, in that one.
You know, I mean, the one thing I love about, working in sports and seeing and right now and seeing tournaments, and of course we're in the middle of 2 international football tournaments, soccer for the North Americans, just in case, which I should be saying too. Upsets can happen, and upsets are fun. And if upsets do happen, then we're gonna have a great time talking about it on Wednesday, or at least the Wednesday.
Make sure you're following Jose's Under the Middle Rope Twitter. Under Middle Rope, is it? Under Middle Rope.
Under Middle Rope. It's Under Middle Rope. Yeah, we're going to be sharing this across the platforms.
We want as many people saying this as possible. So
I would not
following it and get your votes on it.
Yeah, I'm gonna. Hopefully, this spreads out well. But I'm very excited for this. And once again, thank you to you and Nick for setting this all up. Let's get to the last division: submission. The $1 Million Dream and the Lion Tamer. The Figure 4 Leg Lock taking on the Dragon Sleeper. The Bank Statement taking on the Sharpshooter. The Sharpshooter. That's a tough one. That when I saw that bracket, I cried, because I love both moves, and I especially love the Sharpshooter.
It's not even my favorite move in that 4, though. That's the other thing.
It's mine. It's actually mine. I love the Sharpshooter. I don't know why. The name sounds great. The move just looks applied, and I've had it applied on me. It actually hurts. Depending on how you position it, depending on how big of a bitch the person that's applying it to you on. Rings of Saturn taking on the Ankle Lock. The Brock Lock taking on the Crossface or the Labelle Lock. Specifically, if you need a point of reference for that one, just go to Daniel Bryan instead of the other guy when it comes to the word Crossface.
The camel. Why I had both on there.
Exactly.
When you're doing your little video clip, so you don't have to.
Yeah, I'm going. I think I'm gonna go with the Daniel Bryan version.
Yeah.
The Camel Clutch taking on the Coquina Clutch. That is an interesting matchup. The 2 clutches. One made by a very, very famous Bubba, and the other one made famous by a now returned to NXT, the Iron Sheik and Samoa Joe. Hell's Gate taking on the Mandible Claw. Hell's Gate used to have a weird name before it was converted to the Hell's Gate. It was called the Golgotha.
Gogo Plata.
It was just a weird name. Hell's Gate makes
I figured that was just what people would reckon. It is a Gogo Plata, which is, I believe, it's actual MMA. Mixed martial arts actual term.
And of course, if you don't know what the Hell's Gate is, please turn your attention to the ending of WrestleMania 24 between Edge and The Undertaker. And then, of course, the last of the 64, Regal Stretch taking on Nakamura. Pete, your thought process on this? What do you think?
First of all, for anyone not familiar with the Regal Stretch, imagine John Cena's SDFU was done well. And that's when you get the Regal Stretch. It is that same move, but it actually looks like it hurts. This is an odd one as well, because there is a lot of submission finishers out there which are very, very good. And trying to make sure you had a good variation in here of different moves. And like, I love like the Rings of Saturn, for example. I'm very curious how that goes against the ankle lock, because I'm not a fan of the ankle lock as much as people love it.
Yeah. I mean, for Kurt, it came at really good times. I think. I mean, you can't forget how long he applied that to Shawn Michaels at WrestleMania 21. which is I think that's where it's a great example of the ankle lock. One of the better examples of that, I think.
I think I got turned off by. Do you know that the counter that they always do, where they pull forward and the guy goes flying forward into the corner, and I hated it.
Fair enough.
Just that counter, and it always annoyed me that towards later in the career, you never got the tap out until you locked it in on the ground, and that made me just go, "Why aren't you doing that straight away?" And my logic came out there, and I was like, why aren't you going straight to the ground?
Fair enough.
Rather than like holding him and letting him crawl around for like 2 minutes first, getting to the ropes. I'm curious with quite a few of these, and I'm curious because a lot of people won't, as you mentioned, things like the Iron Sheik, with like the camel clutch, etc. And I don't know if a lot of people will now think of like Miro's version.
Also
instead.
true. Yes, he what's that move called? What's his version?
It's the game over now, but
yes. Well, I forgot what it was called in WWE. I know which one you're talking about. Oh, it's gonna bug me.
The Accolade.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we'll see. And like, I'm a big fan of a lot of these moves. I'm a big fan of actually having submission finishes. Having wrestlers having submission.
I appreciate a submission. Like I made sure, like anytime I had to create a superstar in any WWE video game, I had to have a submission on standby, which was for me the sharpshooter. It was a sharpshooter.
But a lot of these get brought back by new people, as I just mentioned. Miro uses the camel clutch. Pac uses the Rings of Saturn as the brutalizer now. So even like newer people might. This is why I think the video clip thing's a good idea. A lot of these maybe aren't as famous by their old names as they are in terms of what people now use.
Exactly. I will say that the only thing I can see people freaking out about is how similar the Banks statement and the crossface label lock are. But I think you have to understand that Sasha Banks, it's the setup and the process to get to that point, and as well how much she stretches.
It's so iconic now.
Because with the label lock and the crossface, you're just tilting the. I mean, again, in speaking in kayfabe, you're tilting just the head back to strain the neck. What Sasha Banks does is she tilts she like strains half the body, which in hindsight looks like it hurts more than a label lock. But I digress.
And also, please don't shout at me if I didn't use your favorite version of the move on here. So if you don't go out with like you didn't use the Scorpion Deathlock instead of the Sharpshooter or whatever version of that.
Yeah, we're going
the same move. I've just picked one of them.
I'll back you up on this as well. We're going for a general statement of the general idea of the move, because yes, there's obviously a lot of different variations. Like for example, like the $1 Million Dream. I'm pretty sure people are going to say it's like, oh, it's just a sleeper hold. I mean, yeah, but it just sounds cooler, right? it sounds more.
That's the thing, some of these are similar. $1 Million Dream is similar to the Kikina Clutch. The Bank Statement is similar to the Crossface Labella, but they're so iconic in what they do, and these wrestlers now, that it's hard to leave out because they are so famous for using them. And I kind of wanted to throw in the figure of 8 leg lock in here as well, because I think it's such a great submission move.
I
couldn't have figure 4 and figure 8 on there, and the figure 4 is just more iconic. And that was my issues. I love the figure 8.
I'm anticipating to see maybe the figure 4 in the final 4 because of its iconic use and being.
I think it might struggle getting past Lion Tamer though. That's a tough.
You think it stops? You think it ends at the Elite 8?
I think figure 4 will beat Dragon Sleeper. I think Lion Tamer will be $1 Million Dream, and I'm very, very, very curious in that matchup.
Of course, if you want to put betting lines, we'll gladly take it. we'll get Nick to be your bookie. That is all from that. I'm excited. Again, I can't thank you enough, Pete, for setting this all up. This is going to be unique. This is, now that it's in fruition, and now that it's taking shape and we see it, and now that we have visually how it's all going to come out and the schedule and the timing, this is going to be a very, very fun 5 weeks, I think.
Yeah, without a doubt.
And of course, now, obviously, at this point, these are going to be official episodes 55, 54, 55, 56, and so on and so forth. So, of course, the question that you may get, in case you, out of the 5 viewers that I have, in case you're wondering, well, I want you, in case one of those 5 are asking, wait, I want you to talk about wrestling topics. I want you to talk about what's going on in the world of WWE. What we're going to do, because in terms of the episodic, this will be our main focus. And again, rightfully so, because it took me a while to properly schedule this out. And of course, Pete and Nick took the time to do this because they were bored. It's safe to say that if some this way
I was bored.
Okay. I'm gonna announce this, and in fact, this I think is more opportunity for us just to be more quick and aware. If something happens, if there's something news breaking that's worthy, emergency pods. We're going to be releasing those over the next 5 weeks. If something happens, again, obviously we're going to be very careful with how big we're talking here, right? We're not gonna we're not gonna have an emergency pod. Hey guys, so Randy Orton defeated Xavier Woods on Raw. Holy crap! No, we're not gonna go that far. But again, if it's something big, like for example, like what we could,
title change or something like that,
maybe we should have the one thing we should have talked about, and I think we're going to quickly talk about this right now. Samoa Joe, that is worthy of an emergency pod because obviously released 2 months ago. He's back now as an enforcer for William Regal. I have to say that this is, at least for me, it's a relief. It's great to see him back. And I know people are going to be asking, wait, what about the other releases? What about this? What about that? I mean, I'm going to be the first to say that, well, you have to look at how big of a character Samoa Joe is in the first place. I'm happy to see him back in NXT. I think it's right where he belongs, Pete. I don't know how you feel, but I'm happy. I'm happy for the guy.
Yeah, I'm thrilled for the guy, obviously. Like everyone's gonna have a different opinion. Like, oh no, I wanted to see him appear in AEW, or no, I want to see him win the Impact title, whatever. I just want to see Samoa Joe on my TV. That's all I want. The guy is amazing. He's amazing at what he does, and it's a stable role. I'm just happy he's re-employed. Getting rid of him was such a stupid decision.
It was a bad call.
And I was trying to look at this, and there's very few people in wrestling where when they cut a promo, I don't believe they're cutting a promo. I just believe every single word that comes out of their mouth and think, no, this is just this guy. And I was trying to genuinely think, I think Eddie Kingston is a guy a bit like that. I think John Moxley has it at times. Samoa Joe is 100% one of those guys.
And then some, I think.
He is arguably the best promo in wrestling.
He's good.
He's up there. He's definitely top 5.
And I think he showed it on commentary, and then obviously to be in this role now, because I think it's a great hybrid, being that authoritative figure that he can project with his voice, while also not to be messed with. Obviously, you saw that. And
I think it'll build up to him being in occasional matches where he can at least chill out and not risk too much, but he might appear on a takeover or every other takeover or something
kind of like a break glass in case of emergency situation for Samoa Joe. I mean, obviously he's labeled as he's not allowed to be a competitor, but unless he's provoked, as William Regal said, he can come out and kick some ass. Again, man, I'm happy. Obviously, my one small concern is I can understand if people say, wait, why isn't he a full-time competitor? And it kind of makes you wonder how bad was that injury. But if he's starting to attack people, then I think he's okay. But that was just my small concern.
He's also old now. He's not a young chip. He's not a young chipper. I don't know how old he actually is. How old is he? I
thought he was 30.
He's 42 now.
He's 42. Oh wow.
So, like I say, he's not fresh because he obviously came in around the same time as people like AJ Styles, and he's around that age. And I know AJ Styles is phenomenally still going in the ring, but once you pass that threshold, it's not easy to wrestle week in, week out anymore. And your body needs a little bit of a break. And no offense to Samoa Joe, especially with that type of physique, you're not going to be able to wrestle week in, week out at that age. And especially not in the style of match that he'll want to put on and the type of impact that'll have on his body. Because I don't want to see him come out and do lumbering matches around. I want to see Samoa Joe.
Exactly.
I want to see the proper Samoa Joe. And if that means we only get to see him on a takeover and that's it, I'm happy with that. I'm happy for it to be a spectacle and to build up that type of spectacle. That's why Brock Lesnar worked for so long, was because it's oh my God, he only wrestles 7 times a year. So it's a spectacle when you actually get to see him wrestle.
And I think they mean a lot too when Brock comes back. I miss Brock.
Well, MGF actually said this really well. He said, why the hell would I wrestle every week? I want people to look forward to me wrestling. I want to see me get my ass kicked and that type of thing. So why would I want it every week? It's the perfect thing. Is you don't want to be wrestling every week. You want to be wrestling on it shows you're a star when when it's a big deal when you're wrestling.
Look at Roman.
Exactly.
Look at Roman. Is it not once a pay-per-view now for him for the most part?
It's very, very rare. Like he might be in like a tag match, and he might like barely be in it and stuff like that. It's rare that he fights outside the pay-per-views. But I'm just looking at those dream matches down in NXT, and there is so many I want to see. I want to see Samoa Joe, Adam Cole. I want to see Samoa Joe, Johnny Gargano. Like, there's so many. Like, I'd even be happy to see Samoa Joe versus Finn Balor again, just because they were great at the time. Their rivalry is up there with the best rivalries in NXT history. So I'm just excited. I'm excited too. The most I've been excited about NXT, and I think it was the best episode of NXT at least this year. I think it was a fantastic episode. I was so excited to watch it for once.
I mean, yeah, like obviously the reports came out that he resigned, and then of course then the rumors started to fly out that yes, it's going to be in an authoritative role in NXT. So obviously I had to tune into NXT because Regal at the end of In Your House takeover in Your House said, "Hey, I have an announcement. I don't think I can do this anymore." Opens the show with that, and then to hear the music again, it felt like a big weight off your shoulders because you're like, thank goodness he's not out of a job. Again, like you said, I know people want him in AEW or Impact, but again, he's back on RTVs, and it hooked me. It definitely has me piqued more interest in NXT than I have in a while. So I'm very, very happy on that front. But on that note, this is where we're going to wrap it up because I think we just need to quickly talk about Samoa Joe because of how big it is. But again, I emphasize what I said before. Samoa Joe, if something like that drastically big happens, emergency pods are going to come your way. But for now,
content machines.
Exactly. But for now, it is time. It is, as Pete said to open the episode, it is tournament time. So this is where we say goodbye to you, Pete. Bye-bye. And we just focus on me. And again, this is where I say look out tomorrow for the first for the first round of 16 in the tag team division that will hit up to Twitter and begin the tournament from there. But of course, that's where all I can say is just that. Thank you so much for watching. Like us on Facebook. Definitely follow us on Twitter and get voting. Available wherever you get your podcasts. And of course, subscribe, please, because you want to hear our reactions because you already heard what we said about how we think the division is going to go, but anything can happen in the tournament. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Jose Tabuada. We will see you guys next week for the reaction of the tag team division. Take care.